now. And we are live. All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. I'm Steven. That's John. That's Patrick. That's Erock. What are we talking about today? We're talking about the best gateway games. So, we did a stream just last Monday where we were doing, what was it, the best Next Step games. And I guess during that video, Next Step was like the next step beyond gateway. And during that video, we're like, I don't think we ever did a gateway.
Here's what to do when you got them hooked, but we don't tell you how to hook them.
We all sort of assumed that we had made a best gateway, and then I went and looked. We got like 850 videos on the channel, right? Like I don't know what is on the channel anymore. But so I went and looked, and I was like, hey, it's not there. So let's do gateway games, right? Sounds good.
So you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, I mean you got to start somewhere, right? You got to have the your gateway drug into the hobby. And is that what we're talking about today? Yeah, all right. So
first taste is free.
I started playing diplomacy. I was like 3 years old. My first words were Army, Sevastopol supports, Navy, whatever.
Didn't keep a friend till high school. It was very sad.
But so we did Next Step. This is Gateway. I personally, I also sort of have a third category in this area that I call welcoming games, which are games that you would just pull out for people to play when they're not gamers. So not like necessary.
So they're activities.
Yeah, I mean, so there's like party games and simple games like that. And so like I have this whole other category where I would put things, like Just One or Werewords, because I don't really consider those necessarily as gateways into the hobby. Those are just fun activities that people do with people.
They're gateways to party games.
Well, yeah, I mean that's okay, right? But I'm just thinking like if I am really trying to get people to introduce people into the modern board gaming hobby, that's not where I would start. I have those games. I like playing those games. Even experienced gamers enjoy those games, but I have those games also for when like people over who are just not gamers, right? You can just pull out and play those really easily. And of course, everybody does their stuff differently. So specifically for gateway games, I went the mechanism route. I was like, all right, well, here's 3 mechanisms, and I'm going to say, here is a good introductory game for this mechanism, and it's sort of a gateway into playing that style of game. So anyway, I don't know. What about you, Erock? What were you thinking when you were making your list?
I did very similar. I concentrated on a mechanism as well. I don't think I really concentrated on the mechanism so much as came up with games and then kind of fit them into mechanisms, as it were. I think any one of them are as a gateway game as there are, as far as bringing people into the hobby. I think one of the things about our hobby now is that there are so many games. There are a ton of gateway games. I can remember 20 years ago you'd say two games. What are gateway games? You'd say 2 things, like I don't know, Pandemic and Catan, I guess, and now we're to the point where you could probably list 100 gateway games off, one after another.
You can list 100 Pandemic games off.
That's it. Yes. Zing.
Glory to Rome.
Indeed. Glory to Rome, yes.
Trading the Mediterranean.
Exactly.
All gateway games lead to Rome.
Well, I didn't do that. I didn't get quite so meta. I kind of focused on gateway games as I'm out there trying to preach the good word of tabletop gaming. And for me to do that, I feel like sometimes you've got to go maybe a little bit more complicated of a party game, but a party game is not a bad place to start if it's the first game of the night. And then maybe we can roll into something a little bit heavier and kind of feel your way through it. But if you're trying to reach, I was thinking, if I'm trying to reach that new market, that new person that is into social interaction, but and having an itchy reaction, a social interaction, I need to start somewhere, and that's what I was thinking. Gateway games.
Yeah, I respect that. I like party games as a gateway into the hobby. They're fun, they're quick, everybody enjoys them. Not everybody's going to make that jump, but I think it's an easier walk from party to, hey, this is an actual, we're going to sit and think for a while kind of a thing, so
John, how did you do it?
One of my gateway games was Agricola, and I almost didn't get in the hobby. I didn't.
This is
so
too much for me, man.
What I did is I didn't do it, and then Steven said he was going to do it a certain way, and I'm like, I'll just do that. So I stole Steven's idea.
Nice.
Ah.
John's gateway game into the hobby was Battlestar Galactica. Incidentally.
Yeah.
That was in another video.
Great intro.
Good times. All right. Well, so you know what? Let's get started. We've got a bunch of games to talk about here. So, hey, Patrick, why don't you kick us off?
I am going to start with the one we already mentioned, Pandemic. I think it's a fairly easy game to understand. It's got one little teeny hiccup for setup when you've got to break the cards out into into 33%, 33%, 32%, and kind of load the deck a little bit. But other than that, the game almost couldn't be easier, and it's something that builds and has a lot of interest for a lot of different people. It's not difficult to understand, and it is definitely, I feel like, a true gateway game that starts to teach you different mechanisms and ideas for learning different games in the hobby.
All right. So, you think base Pandemic is still the best? The original?
I don't think it's the best. No, but I think
I mean the best for this
as a gateway game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to say because everyone knows. Not everyone. So many people know the mechanisms in it. It seems like, yeah, probably, very possibly.
So I think this is a great pick because what is the problem that a lot of people have with Pandemic? It's the quarterbacking thing.
Gamer.
But when you have new people you're introducing into the hobby, being able to quarterback it and go, okay, we're having a little trouble here. Here's what we're going to do. You take away a lot of that stress and anxiety off of them as they're trying to figure out what's going on, and you can ease them into the genre a lot better. So one of the downsides can actually be use your strength in this way. So I think it's a great pick for that reason.
Or you could scare them off the hobby. Like, I sort of played a game. I just watched Erock play it for me.
He just told me what to do, and I did it.
Come on. Erock refuses to play Pandemic with people.
Neutral says he'd pick King of Monster Island over Pandemic. I haven't played King of Monster Island. I do wonder, I haven't played the Star Wars, which maybe is the latest Pandemic, the Star Wars Clone Wars Pandemic.
It's the latest one I've heard of.
Yeah. So, just because of the theme, I think maybe some people would get into Star Wars a little bit more, but
That's a good idea. I haven't played that either, so I don't know how much it differs.
It's more mission based as opposed to just pure walking around the board and eradicating things. So it is a little more easy to understand if you're new to the hobby too. And the theme of it, like you said, it probably would be one of the better gateway games, but I haven't played it myself. I just know of it.
I would not probably suggest the legacy version as a gateway, but I mean,
as a
maybe.
gateway.
We're starting with season 2.
I mean, that's a commitment to make, but I think for sure you could go above that. Like if you like Pandemic, play the legacy. They're awesome.
Nice. All right, Erock, you got something for us?
I do. Let me consult the master
Something
list.
Pandemic-like, maybe?
Absolutely not to start. So, my first game is going to be Dominion. This is not only a really good gateway game, I feel, but also a really good gateway into deck building. I like deck building. I've always played cards. So, like when I was a kid, we played all kinds of different cards and rummies and oh-hells and hearts and everything. So I've been playing cards my whole life. So people that know cards, it's easier to get into gaming if you get them into card games. And although this isn't really how I started in board gaming per se, as I was doing that my whole life too, I have brought people into the hobby who I know play cards. And Dominion's a really easy sell for that. It gets just a tiny bit complicated because you have to remember everything. At some point, you're going to be like, all right, I have 5 actions and 3 buys, and I'm going to play the village. Now I have 5 actions and 5 buys. So there's a little bit of that going on. But aside from that, I think it's a really easy game to get into. And I think I don't know about the new versions that are out, but I know the old ones did. I'm sure they do. But the old ones were like, if you want this kind of a game, use these cards. If you want this kind of a game, use these cards.
Yeah,
and I think that's super helpful to new people because then you can set the game up to play how you want to without it being some random who knows what's going to happen, which is actually probably the most fun is when it's random who knows what's going to happen. But you got to evolve to that. You don't just start out with a mishmash of a bunch of stuff. It's you work these cards together to do these certain things that really build upon themselves, and you see that happen in front of you. I think it's a really great, like I said, both introduction to deck building and a gateway game in itself. And if you have played that, I think that a couple of good next levels of that would be either Clank, which is a deck building game in which you move around like a dungeon and try to get out of the dungeon before the dragon kills you, or Kashgar, which is basically a deck building game with your deck building 3 decks at the same time. So I like both of those games. I think Dominion's awesome, and that's my #1 pick.
Yeah, I think with Dominion, it is vitally important that the person teaching the game really stresses that there's this inflection point where you have to decide that I'm switching from improving my deck, my engine, to getting points. Because
Yes,
how many
absolutely.
times have you seen a new player, like the game ends and they're like, oops, I forgot to get any
Right. They're like,
points.
well, I
Right?
got 2 points, but look at all this stuff. I
Yeah, look
can
at how
do.
cool
Look at all
my
this
deck
money.
is.
So
Right.
another thing to be careful of is don't pop off. If you've got an amazing deck and your engine just like clicks online, don't take a 15-minute turn against somebody you're teaching the game. Be a little more concise. You're
Right.
still gonna win. Just relax. But
And
yes,
yes,
I
you
think
are going to win if you've played before
Yeah.
against people who have not.
I think
Yeah.
it's the most pure deck building game. So if you're going to be getting them into deck builders, this is where you start. Teaches all the core stuff while being interesting.
And be nice. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, don't just do big money because a newbie is not going to know how to beat big
Exactly.
money. Right? And big money wins every time over a newbie, right? So, well, whatever. All right. Well, I'm going to go on to my first pick, and my first pick is an Uwe Rosenberg game. John, you mentioned Uwe, right? So,
Yeah.
well, anyway, but this is, of course, my favorite Uwe, actually, but it's a light game, as you would expect from this list, and that is Bohnanza. Bohnanza is a trading and negotiation game, right? So that is to me, trading and negotiation games can be a little bit difficult to teach people because they have to understand the value of what it is that they're trading, and what they're negotiating. If you have very experienced people and then new people, that can just, fall apart pretty easily. But in Bonanza, like, it's right there on the cards. It tells you how many cards there are. It tells you how much they're worth. I mean, that doesn't mean that an experienced player isn't going to do better, but like the inherent value of the card is printed right there on the card, and it also has this really great mechanism where you have to be trading with the person whose turn it is. So it's not just this weird free-for-all hour-long discussion on every turn about trades, right? You can only trade with that person, and they can't trade something that you traded to them, right? They have to plant whatever they receive. But it's got those depths and layers, right? You've got these bean cards, and you have some bean cards that you turned over on your turn, and you're going to have to plant those unless you get rid of those. And sometimes people want those. Sometimes people don't want those cards, right? And you have to bribe them to take them so you don't have to harvest your own field to plant them. Sometimes you just want to get cards out of your hand because you aren't. One of the cool hooks in this game is you can't reorder the cards in your hand. You have to play them in the order they go into your hand. And so you might have like 3 red beans in a row in your hand and then a blue bean in front of them. Like, you got to get that blue bean out of there so you don't have to plant that stupid blue bean, because the first thing you have to do in your turn is plant the first card in your hand. You want to get that out of there so you don't have to plant it, so that you can, then plant red beans, all in that one field and score a bunch of points. And so you got to just find somebody to take it. You can just give it away at some point. You can bribe somebody to take some bean with that bean, right? There's all kinds of interesting trading negotiation strategies going on there. And because, like I said, about the whole you can't reorder your cards in the hand, you get stupid trades like, hey John, I'll trade you a coffee bean for a coffee bean, and then that's like a great deal for both of us. So I really like trading and negotiation. I have a lot of fun doing that in games, and there are a lot of good trading and negotiation games. Chinatown, which I'm not sure they're going to print anymore because they're making that waterfall park. That is another pure trading game that I think is really good. Or if you're really just sort of leaning into negotiation more than trading, there's like Sheriff of Nottingham or I'm the Boss, which are games where in I'm the Boss, every round there's a deal being made, and you can try to get in on the deal or not with the person who's the boss of the deal. And then Sheriff of Nottingham, it's just you and the sheriff sort of trying to negotiate over whether they're going to open your bag and peek at what you're trying to bring into the city, right? So there's a lot of great sort of entry-level games in this area, but Bohnanza has always been a big hit with my group, and it plays like 7 players, I think. It's a really high player count. So, yeah.
2 things. The first is, how has this mechanic not been used more in the years since Bohnanza? Like, having cards get stuck in your hand and not being reordered, like, that should be used a lot more often, and it's not. And number 2, can we please get a reprint with this with different graphics than the beans that were definitely from 1990?
No, there
Please.
is one. There is a new,
Is there an
new one
updated?
this year, and it's Flowers or something. What is
So
it
it's still- but-
called? There's a brand new version this year with
Oh, okay, I'll pick that
different
up
art.
They listened to my number 2, so I only got one problem.
So it's not about beans anymore.
Right.
It's about flowers.
Yeah, it's Flowers.
It's still
I
called
think.
Bohnanza.
It might be called like something else, a Bohnanza game or something. Like I'll look it up.
It's Bohnanza, Legends of a Drift System.
Yeah. What was your number 2
Awesome.
thing, John? You said the one thing you didn't like, and then the other.
That it just doesn't use more. Like, I would love to see more games use
I
this
think
mechanic.
there is another game where you can't reorder the cards in your hand, but I just can't remember what it is.
Even
and
if
so
there is,
obviously
like,
it's-
one game since this came out, like, it's a really cool mechanic. It really limits what you can do. Actually, Scout. Scout is another recent game and it's an amazing game. So, like, give us a second one. Somebody get on that.
All right.
Maybe it's just too complicated for a bigger game. Now I gotta can't mess with the order of the cards that I have also, on top of I have to move around the board and keep track of my resources, and you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Sounds like a board game to me.
You're saying it's just one more complication,
Right.
and it's something that possibly in the midst of a giant game you could easily cheat or
Accidentally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Be like,
Well,
oh.
if you're playing board games with someone you think is cheating, like, don't.
All
Don't
right.
play board games with cheaters.
So I can't play
But
with
what
Eric
if it's
anymore.
me?
Yep.
What if it's
So I looked it up. The game is Bohnanza Dahlias, and it's art by Beth Sobel, and it's Flowers. I think it's only 3 to 5 players, though, whereas Bohnanza plays more. But anyway, there you go, John. New version.
Hey, I'm happy.
All right, good.
Can you
Well,
combine them together and make a giant Bonanza game?
Well, you plant the
I'm
beans,
sure it
then
would
you play
throw
the second
all
game
the
where they put
probabilities
flowers.
off, but yes. And I think in the later versions of the game, and probably also Dahlias, they removed the option to plant the 3rd bean field because it was almost always a bad decision. It was too expensive. You could start with the 3rd bean field, which makes the game faster and easier on new players, but yeah, buying it was usually a bad move. All right, John, what do you got for us?
So one of my favorite games that is intro is Sushi Go Party. It's a fun little drafting game. It's got a lot of variance to it. It comes with a decent set of cards. I wish they had released an expansion. They left room in the box for it. I would love more content for Sushi Go, but it's such a great game and it's very straightforward. You pick a card, you put it in front of you. Once everyone's done that, you flip it, and then at the end of the round, you score it. 3 rounds, game's over. Really easy to teach, really fun, cool theme, and it really teaches people drafting. It teaches people about in-game scoring and stuff like that. Those are 2 very important things to know if you're getting into the hobby. So, just all around, it has everything that you want in a gateway game, and it leads directly to the more advanced version, which is 7 Wonders. So, start them on Sushi Go, get them hooked on 7 Wonders after that, and then bam, you got a board gamer.
I mean, you talk about an expansion for Sushi Go Party, but I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there, right? You only use a fraction of it every time you play, so. And
I mean, it's just there's extra spots. I would love extra card. Like, why not?
Yeah, there's
just like Ethnos. Give me more.
Well, that's true.
Fantastical races in Ethnos. It's a great game. It's more than enough as it is, but I want more.
Yeah,
give it to me, Steve.
There's like 4 promos, I think, but like you buy 4 promos and that costs as much as the base game. Right?
The only one I've seen is Fairies, and that's only from the.
No, sorry, Sushi Go has.
Sushi Go
has like.
I haven't even seen them available. I'd love to have them.
The Board Game Geek store has them.
I'll go check that after this.
Is Sushi Go both the most basic drafting game and also the most basic set collection game?
I think so.
I don't know about set collection, but
I just to add to that, if you're talking about Sushi Go, it's a game I think is out of print, but on Agatha's attic, is a negotiation set collecting game that I didn't put on my list because I'm not very smart, but I should have, because it is truly really fast paced, really really good, and it teaches both of those mechanisms pretty well.
I'll tell you the gateway game for my kids for drafting was Medieval Academy.
I've never played that.
It's
either.
It's very simple, but it's a whole lot of fun. And they just made a new version of it, maybe not out yet, coming out this year, I think. So, anyway.
It's called Bohnanza Medieval Academy.
I was going to say it's Renaissance Academy because it's more advanced.
It's new, yeah.
But yeah, I have Sushi.
Contemporary Academy.
I have Sushi Go Party with all the promos. I mean, I love that game. And again, it plays up to a lot of players too, which I think is nice. You know, it's good to have that flexibility when you're trying to introduce people to games, right? Because if you've got a bunch of people over or whatever. So, all right, cool. Yep. All right, well, that was one lap around. Let's do it again. Patrick, what do you got?
You know, I really want to say Aunt Agatha's Attic, but I'm not going to. I'm going to say no thanks. And I'm not just passing on my turn. No thanks is a really good card game. It kind of teaches... I don't even know, like, what mechanisms are in
Yeah, like, how would you describe it?
It's like an auction, almost. It's like a reverse auction.
It's a reverse auction.
It's a type of
reverse
auction.
All right,
yeah,
it's
nice.
a reverse auction that is easy to learn, really easy to play, hard to master, but it is something that's a little more cerebral than, I don't know, like, Say Anything or Apples to Apples.
It's also a weird type of set collection because of how the scoring works.
It's super cool.
I think what it teaches you is how to analyze value, how to look at something and go, should I take this because there's enough chits on it now, or should I pass it along?
True. I'm always trying to analyze my own value, and I come up short every time.
Rounding error.
I wish.
I like. There's some strategic depth here. Like, it's so simple, but in No Thanks, one of the things I like to do is I like to fairly early on take a fairly high numbered card, right? Because people don't want it. They all have a lot of chips. And so you can get a lot of value. You get a lot of chips, which you need to pass up other cards. But then, you know, once you have that high valued card, then cards that are directly adjacent to it or really close to it, you can pass them around to get a lot of value, you know? And if you take like the 27 and the 29 and the 28 comes out, nobody wants that 28, right? I mean, because you just do the math. You should.
But it'll survive a few rounds around at least.
Yeah, right. So you're going to get a lot of value in that, and then it's going to, you know, you're going to get a ton of chips from the 27, 28, 29, but you're only got negative 27 points, right? So, and then maybe the 26
is the card that was removed from the game.
Yeah, I know. You know, it's going to shoot you, and it's going to shoot you in the foot every now and then, right? Like, but that's fine. No strategy is perfect, otherwise the game would be boring.
When you're not paying attention and somebody's out of chips.
Yeah. Well, we play with open chips, so.
What?
Yeah.
That's anathema. You're kidding me.
No, because I will tell you that if you play with closed chips, it slows the game down. Because people are like, does he have chips? Maybe not. I don't know. Instead,
I feel like that's
chips
half the point of the game.
Yeah, but no, it's this game should be fast and fun. And if you I've played it both ways many times, and the closed chips.
We know you go both ways.
Yeah, exactly. but you know, if you tell me you want to play one way or the other, like I don't care. But I will just tell you I've played, and it takes 2 to 3 times as long to play this game with closed chips. And this game should be fast. So
if I'm having fun, I don't care how long it takes. It's a lot like being intimate. Also, I wanted to point out that in a lot of these games that we're talking about, an important fact about this is 3 to 7 players. So it goes to a fairly high player count. And I think that's an important thing for a gateway game, because it's a way to get a group of people together, maybe a little party or get together over at Eric's house, and we can all start playing the same game and interact with each other.
And it also plays 3, which means that you don't have to pre-plan it. You can take it to wherever you're going, and however many people that you have will be able to play it.
Yeah. Good. I like that.
Neutral described it as push your luck, because you do push your luck a little bit about whether
there's some of that in there
too.
And there's definitely the, like you were saying about, is the 28 in the deck? I don't know.
My second pick is push your luck. No more talking about that.
Oh,
moratorium.
Right. Sorry.
Close it.
All right, Erock, you're up next for a game that's not push your luck.
Going back to the master
You don't push your
list.
luck on this one.
So actually, I'm going to come back around because my gateway game that is a co-op is Forbidden Island, which is basically the same thing as Pandemic without the cards, kind of.
The father of Pandemic.
Right, the father of Pandemic, exactly. It's the same kind of system where everybody's united. It's a co-op game, so you're all trying to accomplish the goal, which in Forbidden Island is you need to grab all the treasures and get off the island before it sinks. And everybody has a special role. I don't remember them all offhand, but like one of them's like a pilot, so that will be able to move people around quickly. And another one is a diver who can go into the water, whereas everybody else will just die when they go into the water. So everybody has like one unique special ability, and you just kind of try your best to work it out between everybody playing to get those off the island onto the helicopter before the island sinks and everybody dies. It's super simple. It comes in a tin.
So does Sushi Go Party.
That's true. We got
true.
2 tin games on here today. That's fantastic. That's if we did a list of our top 10 games, those would be probably the only 2.
Our top 10 games featuring 2 games.
Right, exactly.
No,
But
Forbidden Desert is good too.
Is that in the tin?
I don't know, probably.
Yeah.
Isn't the whole line
Forbidden
in a tin?
Island, Desert.
Oh, Sky is not. Sky was in a box.
I challenge, but we'll get back to it later.
I got tins.
I like any game with a chopper in it because then I spend the whole time going, get to the chopper.
Get to the chopper. Absolutely. So yes, that is my intro gateway game that is a co-op, which is basically Pandemic. Like I said, it's a little bit simpler than Pandemic. You can get it on the table and get it played pretty quick. If you do like it or have played that and looking for something more, I like Mansions of Madness or Journeys in Middle Earth. To be fair, those are pretty advanced past Gateway.
You just went from like skipping to high jump, man.
I did indeed, from Forbidden Island
After a good
to
game of
Mansions
Monopoly,
of
I like
Madness.
to bring out War of
Are
the
you
Rings.
talking? Are you talking original Mansions of Madness? Or are you talking
No,
second
the app.
edition?
Use the app. That's like so. I think the app helps.
That's
know,
not
'cause
second edition's not a huge leap.
That's
First edition.
First
is
edition would have been
huge-
a disaster. Like don't even play that ever. But
Oh, it's a
I
good
agree.
game.
Like yeah, but second edition is just better. The app just does everything. You can just
Yeah.
jump right in basically and start playing the game, which is kind of why I went to that. And Journeys in Middle Earth's the same thing. It's just, do you want to do Cthulhu horror or do you want to do Tolkien fantasy? Like, same system either way, but I recommend both of those if you do like that whole thing. Though again, it is probably the most advanced next step that will be mentioned today. So.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Forbidden.
Oh, and I forgot one. And if you want something that's just a barrel of fun with your friends, Mechs versus Minions is fantastic. It is a programming game, which turns off a lot of people, but it really, really works in this game. And I think it's because it's co-op. Because in most other programming games, you just end up screwing each other over constantly, and it just grinds your gears. And in this, you're on the same team. When something goes wrong, oh well, something went wrong. Something will go wrong for you next turn.
I have not played that. Is it a programming game that allows table talk?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Because you set your
otherwise you
cards
just screw
out to
everyone.
do it.
Yeah.
No.
Except for the drafting phase. You got to do that quick.
Right.
Yeah,
you do
there's a timer.
yes, like it's timed. Like you do the drafting phase quick, and then you set your programming up and see what
Unless
happens.
you just don't want to time it because it's your game.
Oh, you
game,
guys
not
are
a
gonna
cop.
give me a headache, man.
Well, there you go. Just in case anybody forgot what Erock's pick was, because it's been so long since he mentioned it. Forbidden Island, a great
Forbidden
gateway
Island.
into Schwarzenegger
Yay.
movie
I've heard good
quotes.
things about that game.
All right, I'm going to go next, and I'm going to go with a game that, I was going to say it's a little complicated mechanism-wise for gateway games, but after hearing Erock talk about some of those games, so worker placement is typically something that you find in more complicated games, but that doesn't mean that there aren't simpler ones, and my favorite gateway game into the worker placement mechanism is again another game that supports like 7 players, is Asking for Trobils. Very orange game. It's got a science
Very
theme.
orange.
Yeah, but basically you're going around the map and you're collecting stuff so that you can get these Trobils and throw them into the sun. You know, that's just one of the ways to score points, right? And I have to say, there is no generally accepted definition of worker placement, right? Some people will tell you that worker placement has to inherently have blocking in it. But there are some games, like Asking for Trobils, that do not have blocking. They have a bumping mechanism. So, and I like that as recommending this for a gateway game, right? Because you can't get locked out of doing an action. You can go, there are some games that make an action more expensive, like Keyflower. Most worker placement games just block you out of it, but this is actually the second game I think I ever saw that had this mechanism where you can go there and then you just bump that person's ship, their workers or ships in this game, and return it to them. And so that's a benefit to them, because now they don't have to spend a turn calling back their ships if their ships are constantly getting bumped. And in a lot of worker placement games, the calling back your workers is like a wasted turn, almost. Unless you're playing a Luke Laurie game where he makes pulling back your workers fun. Anyway, the theme, I think, is something a lot of people can appreciate. It's sort of campy sci-fi. It's very cartoony. And none of the rules...
Intentionally campy.
Yeah, is the Firefly ship or the ship from
the
Futurama?
Doctor Who things in there. Like, it's just intentionally campy.
Yeah, and the Trobils are, of course, just like a ripoff of Tribbles from Star Trek.
For legal reasons, they're not actually those ships.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. They're just very similar to...
But the game at its heart is pretty simple, but it has some cool things, right? Because you get these placards that you put on your ship that give you benefits when you go to certain places, which also telegraphs that you want to go to those spaces, which helps with the bumping mechanism, right? So that's all great, and so that's why I like this as the gateway for worker placement. Now, a couple of things. There are a couple of other games that I also think are really good that are often cited as a gateway to worker placement. So I thought I would call those out. And one of those is a D&D themed game, which is Lords of Waterdeep. It's a fairly mean game in the blocking, right? Because it's very tight in the number of spaces there are available. It's a little bit easier if you have the expansion, Scoundrels of Skullport. And then another one is Stone Age, right? Where you're collecting resources and do stuff. That is, I think, probably... the best worker placement gateway game that has the blocking mechanism is probably Stone Age.
Plus, if you run out of food, you can force your workers to eat rocks.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
When I went on Board Game Geek and I looked at the worker placement mechanism, like I said, it was just sort of a mess. It's all over the place. It had Tokaido listed in there as a worker placement game, and so I disagree that that's a worker placement game, but it does make me think if you play a worker placement game and you like this sort of blocking people from actions thing, then Tokaido is a great game for that, because that game is all about that, right? Mm-hmm. How far am I going to go ahead to get the thing that I want, or am I going to stop here to block the thing so John can't get it, and then maybe I'll still get that thing that I wanted, or whatever. So that's another great game to look into, depending on what you like about worker placement. But if you like the blocking of worker placement, then Tokaido is another game I think you should look at.
Manhattan Project is a great one for worker placement.
Yeah, Manhattan Project,
one of the better ones.
And Manhattan Project Energy Empire.
Yeah,
those are. I wouldn't say those are gateway games though.
No, I was saying
they're definitely next step to go.
That's the next step from, say, even Tokaido.
Oh yeah, I mean, I could definitely do a video on just worker placement, and maybe we did. Did we do that? I can't remember our gaming through mechanisms.
Did we? Did we not?
I don't know.
See you next week for a.
Yeah, next week. Yeah.
I agree with you. I don't think it's really hard to have a gateway worker placement. Like, that thing in itself is kind of complicated. So I think you did a pretty good job of picking something that's as light as possible while having that in it, because they really spiral out of control. Because then if you want to go like, all right, so I lied, so now I'm going to go even farther extreme than I did before.
Oh boy.
Because if you like the bumping mechanism, Lacerda loves to let you bump.
Oh, does he? Okay.
Yes.
All right. The first
Lacerda is my next pick, actually.
Oh. the first game I remember that had the bumping mechanism was Euphoria from Stonemaier Games.
Oh, I love that game. That's a really cool game.
I don't know if that was the first, but that's the first that I remember. So
really, cool. How old is Euphoria?
It's not that old, but bumping is also not that. Well,
Bump.
I mean, it's probably 8 to 10 years old now, but
Yeah,
you know,
that's probably about right.
yeah. But I don't remember a game from before that had bumping. But I don't know. This maybe
2013,
there could be
10
several.
years.
Yeah,
If you
there
know the
go.
first one, put it in the comments below.
Yeah. Neutral, tell us. All right, but in the meantime, let's go on to John.
Oh, he said my first Stone Age.
My first.
That's actually a good idea. That's more of an
They
intro.
made that to be intro work, yeah.
Yeah.
I still think the regular Stone
haven't-
Age is just fine.
I haven't played it, but some kids' games are just not like. Well,
Like my
I'll
first
talk.
Everdell.
My next game that I talk about has a my first version of it, and I would not play that with adults. Like it's too simple, right?
Understood. Yeah.
So
I haven't played it.
haven't
either.
played my first Stone Age, so I don't know.
I'm pretty sure I gifted it to somebody, but I've never played it. So.
All right, John,
All right.
what do you got?
My second pick is going to be a push your luck game, as advertised.
Nice.
It is a very fun one called Celestia. In Celestia, everyone takes turn being the captain and rolling dice to see what cards you have to play, and then people have to figure out if they trust you or not enough to stay on board or to jump ship and get a card from wherever you're currently at. And it's just such a neat little game. It's so easy to teach. It leads to a great moments constantly throughout the game of just like everyone thinks you're going to take them along and you crash. You know, you're the captain. You're just lying through your teeth about being able to get to the next spot or something. And it just really has that great push your luck element of like, if you win, you're probably going to win because you got off the boat at the right time a few times during the game. You pushed your luck right to that right spot and got off right before the crash. So it really teaches you that push your luck mechanic really well. In a fun game with an evocative theme that's easy to teach, and it has up to like 8 players, I think. So it's another one, like Patrick said, that like the player count matters because you can have a big group setting and everyone's having a good time with it, and understand the game easily. So it works great on that level. And I think if you enjoy that, the next step you should take is the game is flown out of my head with the witches, whether you're brave or not. Broom Service.
Oh, Broom Service.
Broom
yeah.
Service is a great upgrade to that because it's all about you play your card out and you can be brave if you want. You can push your luck. But if somebody else is brave, you get absolutely nothing. And it's another thing. You're flying around different spaces. It's very colorful. You're trying to score points. And it's all about pushing your luck at the exact right time to get the resources you need to win the game. So I would go with Celestia. I would go with Broom Service for the second level of that. And I think those are both great push your luck games.
See, I think if I were starting with a push your luck game, I would start with a dice game like Can't Stop or Decathlon, and then
That's
next...
a shame it wasn't your pick.
I know.
Oh,
But it's funny.
somebody
but
get the ointment out.
the next step you were talking about
Sick
witch.
burn.
The next step you were talking about witches and stuff, and I was thinking Quacks of Quedlinburg. But then
Yeah,
I
that's
knew
where
you
my
were-
mind went.
I knew you were thinking. I knew you really liked Witches Brew. So yeah.
I was thinking the Witching Hour,
This isn't a
but
form,
that's not a
all right?
gateway
This is
game
my
for
pick.
anybody. You're right.
This is
You're
my
right.
picks
Yeah.
today are what I said.
No, it's only your pick unless you're wrong, and then
Oh,
we all
then,
talk.
then it becomes a group thing. All great games. Any of those you can't go wrong on. But my pick is Celestia and Broom Service.
Yeah, no,
All right.
Celestia is a great game. I think the first time I played it, we played like a variant of it, and I'm
So
trying
just
to
play the regular game. They
No, I
they
played
worked
both.
on this hard.
But I
Just
liked
read the rules and do what it says.
Stop
well,
hiding chits.
when
and
somebody
no
just
dice.
teaches you a game, you don't know you're not playing by the rules, right? I don't
Oh,
know.
is that's not a variant. That's poor teaching.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many games I've played not right the first time because somebody
I've
just
played a
taught
lot
it
of
to me.
variants. If
If,
that's
yeah,
the
that's
case.
what I'm saying. If that's what a variant is, I've taught a lot of variants in my time. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I wrote many
Yeah.
a variant.
When I go to a place where people are gonna be playing games, especially non-core gamers, Celestia is the first game I grab because it just fits so well.
And that's isn't that a remake of an old game like Balloon Cup or something?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. I don't know.
Look at the big brain on Brad.
Well, unless I'm wrong.
I was just going to say Megaland. Megaland is also the same kind of game. It's in Ryan Lockhart world, and you're kind of doing it in a dungeon, but same thing. I thought that was really good.
Just go buy a Lockout game. You can't go wrong. They're great intro games.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
My number 3 pick is anything by Matt Leacock.
Well, I thought it was
Cool.
Lacerda.
It was, but you're gonna yell at me for that too. Tell me how wrong I am.
Nice. All right, let's go around again. Patrick.
All right, this is definitely, you guys are going to give me hell about this one because
Oh
this,
yeah.
yeah, I know. This is a party game of sorts. And thematically, it's not a party game, but I would say Deception, Murder in Hong Kong, if you're trying to get people, a big
It's a
group
fun
of
game.
people into playing board games, this is a great way to get new people into the genre. And that's all I got to say about
I don't know
that.
whether I'm on your side or not because I waffled on this game a lot. I just don't know if it's a gateway game. I think it's fantastic, but I don't
Well,
think
it's easy to
somebody
learn. It
buying
holds a
it
lot of
and
players.
trying to learn it and teach their friends is going to be successful at this.
Well,
Really?
but that doesn't. That's
No.
to me the gateway game doesn't have to be that because it can be you teaching the game.
We're the
to
drug
people.
dealers.
Yeah, but
We're
what
trying
if
to
it
get them
isn't?
hooked.
What if it isn't? Is what I'm saying.
I mean, we haven't been judging any
That's
of
a
the other
different
games
list.
on this list, right? 'Cause-
Well, I do what I want.
yeah, but
See,
think about
that's true.
think about
That's
like
what makes them-
asking for troubles, right? Like if you're just cracking the manual and reading it, like if somebody's reading that manual doesn't know what worker placement is that easy game to learn? I have no idea because I don't have that frame of reference, right? Like we've got those frames of reference, so
Let's just mute Erock. Move on.
I don't, the instructions for Deception, Murder in Hong Kong is like 2 pages.
It's 2 pages. Yeah, it's a
yeah,
decent-
but you need somebody to explain, the person who's like giving the clues or whatever. Somebody has to explain the game in more depth than just what's in the rule book. Otherwise, the experience is going to be bad for everybody, right?
I don't know. The
I-
very first time I played the game, I played with Tiffany at Cloak and Blaster, and we cracked the plastic and read the instructions and played the game.
Well, you
But we
guys are
played it.
also experienced gamers too, though. So
Nah, I wouldn't say that. Me, well, Tiffany maybe. Tiffany maybe.
So
not
look
me.
The Just
behind
Got
you.
Played motto is if Patrick can do it, anyone. can.
Anybody can do it. Yeah, that's exactly my point.
All right, well then I stand corrected. I accept your choice.
For the record, I don't like this game. I've played it many times, and I just can't find the fun. I don't know.
Play with have you
Oh,
played
that
with
is
Erock?
crazy! This game is awesome.
Have you played with Erock? Play with Erock
No.
and Tiffany. You will find a whole new love or hatred for the game.
I've played at least twice with John, maybe more. But
Yeah.
For
Eric is-
years, I said this is the best game we don't own, and I finally got one in like the DTE DFM. So
It's not my favorite game, and I think it's a great gateway game.
Any time you want to be lied to in a game and be completely suckered into it, you should play with Erock. It is a
I just
Yeah,
I-
but that's usually him teaching the rules, and that's
You're
not
gonna give
fun.
me
yeah,
the
well,
meta.
that too. But,
Everybody
It's like,
just
this
gonna
is
be
the
like,
variant.
it's
It's
him.
called I Win.
I'm like, it's not me. It's not me. But that's what
And
you
he-
always say. Yeah, I know, but it's really not me.
and it always is.
I will
Oh.
play just about any game, but there are a couple of games where I think I'm at the, you know what, I'll just sit this one out stage. And Everdell is one of those. I will never play that one again for sure.
Chinatown is one of
But-
those for me.
Oh yeah, so like, everybody has those. But a Deception, Murder in Hong Kong, it's short, so maybe I could be talked into it. But I feel like I've given this game a fair shake. I played it 6 to 8 times and not had a good experience ever.
Well,
So
you do have control issues, so I could see you having a problem.
I mean I've played it both as well, there's like 3 different roles.
Please stop
essentially,
yelling,
right?
Steven.
Yeah. So
Just, Steven, why are you yelling at us? We were trying to play a game. Why are you throwing things at us, Steven?
no, that was the crew.
Steven, why do you keep your eyes open?
Nice. Okay, well, all right. Deception, Murder in Hong Kong, which they
Most
didn't make-
controversial pick on the list.
They didn't do Deception, Murder in other cities, did they?
No, they
yet.
just kept adding
Murder only
more
exists
to
in
the-
Hong Kong.
Yeah,
We've solved it everywhere else.
There's so much stuff for this game. It's ridiculous.
nice. All right, Erock, what do you got for us?
Oh, back to the master list.
Is it
Yes.
the master list because it's your list and you're the master?
No,
Yes,
it's
of
because
course.
there's 16
Oh.
games on it, and he's only getting to pick 3.
You know what's really funny? When Steven and I, this is total off base here, but when Steven and I started doing Gaming Through Time, I started this list, and I have just continued to, every time we film something, I put my choices for that, whatever we're filming on that. So it has everything
Is it a cocktail napkin and crayon?
You're the official librarian.
of my own picks for all these things.
Yeah, if we need to know what you would pick, we just ask you.
Exactly.
You got your
yes.
list.
You're like, what game did you like in 1978? Well, I'd be happy to tell you what I liked in 1978. So anyway, my third pick for this list is going to be Splendor. Now, quite frankly, I'm not a huge fan of Splendor because it's a little too simple for me, kind of like it's just a little too simple. But I think it's really good to get people into the hobby because it's very addictive. The game is so simple. On your there are basically 5 different kinds of gems, and you use the gems to buy more gems that are more expensive. So this gem might cost me 2 blue gems. So I spend the blue gems. Now I got this one, but now I have this one, and it counts as a blue gem. So you just kind of keep building this in front of you. So this is kind of my introduction to both tableau building and engine building. And tableau building and engine building are kind of hand in hand anyway. Those two things really go well together. This is a extremely streamlined, fast version of this process. Like I said, it's addictive. I am not looking forward to playing it, but I guarantee you, if you said, let's play Splendor, I would say yes. And I would immediately be hooked into that system of trying to get the jewels, to get the next jewels, to get the next jewels. Like, it's so addictive. It's just constantly rewarding you with the next best thing. I think it's really awesome as far as it goes. Not my favorite game. Really great at what it does, though. And if you do like this kind of thing or have played that and looking for the next step, I think Gizmos is awesome. That is an incredibly good tableau building engine building. You're like changing these marbles into all these different marbles that do different stuff, and it all comes in this big finale at the end. It's awesome. And the other one for this, I would say, is Space Base. Tiff, that's one of her favorite games. I like it a lot too. That's more of a dice chucker where everybody kind of always gets paid, which is nice. But another example of a kind of a tableau builder and an engine builder. And I think that's a really, really fun system is tableau building and engine building, because you constantly upgrade what you're doing to get better payouts, to do better things. That's the game. It's fantastic.
It pains me to say this, but I actually agree with you. It's engine building itself is the addictive part, right? The engine building is whatever is super addictive. And it's a simple engine building game, so it's a good way to get started. It hurts me to say that I approve of your choice.
Did we all just recommend a game that we don't really like?
Yes.
So it's also, if you've ever wondered what it feels like to get slapped in the mouth, teach someone Splendor and then hoard the gems of one color for all game. Because somebody's done that to me, and I wanted to slap them in the mouth.
Or play a game with Steven. And you'll
No. John is the worst about that. What is that game that you play that has like the Golem edition? Century Spice Road? Play that with John sometime.
This video's in. It's over. Don't Zoom.
I just say, if you think I'm bad, play Century Spice Road with John sometime.
I would recommend it. So I'm going to tell you the way to win Century Spice, and it's going to make people hate you. You get all the stuff you need for the most expensive card, and then everyone sees that you have everything you need for the most expensive card, so they stop building toward it. And then you just start collecting other gems and wait until someone's one gem away from that expensive card. Then you buy it, and then you've essentially locked up the board, gotten the most points, and you're already halfway to buying another card.
Yeah, you have to force John to take the most valuable one before you can take another card because it's lower in value until you force John to...
It sounds like so much fun.
It's work.
I wouldn't play it with me.
Yeah.
I have one question, really, and that is, how are you still alive, sir?
Yeah.
Because I stopped trying to get it to the table.
Fair enough. All right.
He removes all the sharp items from the house and doesn't put it on the table anymore.
Bring my helmet.
Speaking of mean, I'd like to talk about area control. So, area control is inherently mean. It's funny, we talked about area control in one of our other videos about how there aren't necessarily a lot of great gateway things. Then we proceeded to name a bunch of gateway games for area control afterwards. But I'm a big fan of Carcassonne. It's very simple mechanically. Your turn is simple. Draw a tile and place it. But there's more strategic depth than I think a lot of people give it credit for, and a lot of that is just the meanness of the area control. Like, hey, there's a big city. I'm going to go fight over that city. I can't put my knight directly in the city. That's against the rules. So I'm going to put him near the city. And now I'm going to try to connect my knight into the city, but you're going to try to keep my knight away from the city. And even when you draw a tile that some people are like, well, I just hate a turn where I draw a road because roads aren't that cool. But you can use roads to break up fields. You can use roads to keep people from completing a city. Like John and Erock could be fighting over a city. It's worth a bunch of points, and I just put some roads nearby so it never gets completed, right? So it's worth half its value. You can use a road to connect into somebody else's road, and then if you have like those, I like to play with the tile with like the longest road, the robber benefit, right? So there is an added benefit of building roads. But so there's area control on the roads. There's area control on the farms if you play with what is now a variant, farms. There's the farms are worth a ton of points. There's and then the knights that I talked about. Carcassonne is also obviously a tile placement game. I don't think you really need a gateway to tile placement. I think everybody pretty much gets tile placement. But,
tile down.
Yeah, right.
Dominoes is like the gateway.
Yeah, that's the thing though. But if you play Carcassonne, and
where do I put this?
Yeah, if you play Carcassonne and what you like about it is tiles, like just go look up any polyomino game, right? You might.
There's
like
a lot
that.
of them.
Or if you want something that is really a lot like Carcassonne, but has a different take because instead of building one map together, you're building an individual map. Isle of Skye is fantastic. It's all about the auctioning of it.
Dwarf Romantic is good too, as well as Isle of Cats.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton. Well, Isle of Cats is just a polyomino game.
Polyomino, but it's tile placement.
Yeah, so tile placement, there's a lot. But if area control is what you're after, then, well, John mentioned, I think you mentioned Ethnos. About when we were talking, or maybe that was before we started streaming. I don't know. Ethnos is a good game for area control where you're just collecting cards and playing them down to do area control. I actually think if area control is what you really like, I really recommend the game Fjords because I play this with my kids and they love it. Fjords is it's done in basically two phases. The first phase is you're putting out these tiles and deciding whether to put your settlements on them, and then in the second phase you're putting you fill up all the spaces with your units, and whoever gets the most units on the board wins. So you're basically doing this fight for area control with settlements and tile placement. It's a little wonky with the tile placement because sometimes it's just hard to figure out where a tile fits, not like Carcassonne where it's pretty obvious where tiles go. Yeah, anyway, if you're interested in this area control thing, people can play Carcassonne friendly, but I don't recommend it. Carcassonne is an area control game, and you should play it cutthroat. You should fight for fields and roads and farms. And
whenever anyone I know plays Carcassonne with Steve, and they text me, they're like, "This is like playing Century with you."
Well, you mentioned area control, and we're talking about gateway games. I think probably every one of us would have to say a gateway game for us was Risk.
Absolutely. I was going to bring that up if nobody did, because area control is war. If you played a war game, that's area control.
That's one kind of fantastic.
It's one kind of area control, but that's.
I can't in good conscience recommend Risk to somebody. It's literally the only game in my 40 years of gaming that somebody has actually flipped the table. Is Risk.
It's too long.
I don't know. Also, it is definitely too long, but I don't know. I don't regret playing Risk. I'll tell you that.
In high school, you'd get a bunch of soda and order pizza and play Risk on a Saturday night until Sunday morning.
You know what? I recommend it in the same situation. You know what I'm saying? Like
with a bunch of high school.
If you're in high school and you got
hang
pizza,
out with your friends, get some sodas and some pizza and play Risk. I don't know if I'm 35. I'm nowhere near 35, but I don't know if I'm 35 and playing Risk. But if you're 18, 23 in college or whatever, I think it's fantastic. Play some Risk.
Yeah, you have to admit that it was a gateway game for all of us.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Oh yeah, my grandmother, who had no idea what she was doing, would always kick my butt at Risk because she could roll sixes like nobody's business. Yeah.
That's the only skill in Risk.
Yeah. It's like I should have taken her to a casino. I don't know.
Right.
Your grandma had a set of loaded dice. You're just hot swapping it when she gave it back to you. Just cheating your ass the entire time.
She was pretty competitive. I don't know.
They call old Grammy the Scourge of Vegas.
Yeah. She can't go back.
Yeah,
That's why you
banned.
couldn't take her to Vegas. She couldn't go back.
Oh
But
my
she's playing him
gosh.
for $1 a pop.
She was 5 feet tall if she was standing on my feet, but man. Oh, did I just beat all your units? Ooh.
Come here, Granny.
Oh my!
Yeah, if she was still around, John, I'd get you to play Century Spice Road with her.
I'll get revenge on her for you. I'll hold the car. You remember all those sixes you rolled, Granny?
This is terrible. Let's change the subject.
Yeah, all right, John, what do you got?
How do you follow up with that? So I think that it's a little cliche because it's such an obvious answer, but I think it's an obvious answer for a reason, and that's Ticket to Ride. It's just such a great game. It's got trains in it. It's a fun theme. It's evocative. It's really easy to teach. You're just grabbing colors, and when you get enough colors, you play the route out. It teaches you again about in-game scoring. I think that's a big one to teach people new to the hobby is in-game scoring, because a lot of times when
That's
you're
a
playing like
good
Monopoly,
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kudos to
Right.
you.
no, thank you. Much better topic than what we were on. But when you when you got a
What,
new
grandma
player,
punching?
yeah, grandma slapping, please.
Sorry.
I've got some class.
Sorry.
But when you're working someone in the hobby, in-game scoring is huge because what do you teach somebody about a new game? The first thing you do is here's how you win the game, and then you kind of work backwards from that. So, teaching them, hey, what you do during the game is great, but it's going to be the end of the game, and we're going to start calculating points. It teaches you that. It teaches you mid-game scoring, and all that good stuff. It teaches you about drawing off the top of the deck for 7 turns because your dang pink won't come up. A lot of things like that. So it's a classic for a reason, and it's got so much variety. I think one of the things that you should consider when you're doing a gateway game is there variants of this? Is there expansions? Is there stuff that if they really enjoy this and they want to play some more of it, do I have some more I can throw at them? And Ticket to Ride has that in spades. You can never run out of content with the different maps, the different variants, all that good stuff going on. And credit to Steven, who gave me this recommendation. If you do enjoy that and you want a little bit of a more advanced then you play a game called Royals. Royals is a area control game. You're fighting for control of different regions, and you're doing it by drafting cards that have the colors on them. And once you have enough of the colors, you discard them and you claim the spot. So it's got that direct connection to Ticket to Ride. It's a little cutthroat. It's a little bit of we're fighting over the same stuff, and how dare you fight me? I only got a 1 area. That guy's got a 3. So it is definitely a more advanced version. It's a little more cutthroat than Ticket to Ride, but it is that good step up from a really good intro game, Ticket to Ride.
Yeah, Neutral actually said that the London and New York versions, he was recommending those. They're, smaller and shorter. I think they've made 2 more, actually. Maybe they made Amsterdam, and they made San Francisco, but I think I read San Francisco is broken. Like the valuations aren't balanced or something, so there's a clear winning one strategy you have to do.
How do you make like 20 versions and the 20th one is the one that's screwed
broken.
up?
Yeah.
Because you
don't
just
know.
run out of ideas, and you're just like, oh no, San Francisco 13 points.
Yeah,
I don't care.
how do you not just have a computer?
We know
that
this
plays it
game. We don't have to
times?
play test it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, maybe.
Pick some new cities, put some random routes, and call it a
Hey,
day.
they were busy making Ticket to Ride Legacy. So
That's true.
that took 3 years.
I will
of
tell you, I
development.
thought Ticket to Ride Legacy was going to be a meme game, but from everything I'm seeing, it looks like it actually could be good.
Yeah, I'm ramped up interest as we go as well.
Yep,
Because I'm
same.
with you. When it was announced, I was like, oh, no.
Yeah, but
but
look at the pedigree.
Every little bit, I'm like, yeah, okay.
Well,
Yeah, but there's
Rob
been,
Davio, Matt Leacock, and Alan Moon. You could just say those 3 names. Do you want a game from those 3 people? I'd be like,
but
yeah,
not
I'll pre-order
everything's a
it.
success.
I
you know?
love Rob Davio, but he's made just as many bad Legacy games as he has good ones.
Yeah, but
He
it's
is
not
the-
Rob Davio. It's Rob Davio, Matt Leacock, and Alan Moon.
You are correct, but it's just the concept of it. It's like, hey, what Legacy game do you want? I would say not Ticket to Ride.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think it was just the whole idea that really turned me off too. I'm like, what? We're gonna lay trains now for 12 weeks in a row?
Are we gonna build
Come
the actual
on.
track? We're like down there with pickaxes?
Right.
No.
Are we
I
going to
agree,
get
but
into
go
the
ahead.
labor? Are we going to get into the labor issues that existed when we were actually building trains? Is that all going to happen?
After the grandma punching, I think we just end it
All
here.
right, yeah, that's smart. You
Thanks
know what?
for coming, everybody.
Oh. Wait, no others? No honorable missions?
was-
Nothing we missed?
Well, why would you encourage Erock?
Yeah,
You know he's got a list.
What do you want to know
He's
why?
in front of him.
Because I've got another one that I nobody else mentioned it, so I want to call it out. And I just want to say we talked a little bit about social deduction with Deception, Murder in Hong Kong, but for me, hands down, the best social deduction gateway game is The Resistance.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. It's kind of fallen out of favor lately, but there's
think-
nothing more distilled as far
I
as
think
it
it's
goes.
very similar, but I would go with Avalon because I think the theme works better. But I agree with you. It's pretty much the same game.
So the way it is now, it is exactly the same game.
Yeah.
Like they added Merlin into the regular base game, so it's really just do you want fantasy versus sci-fi? It is just the theme. But yeah, that is pure distilled social deduction. It is super easy to teach. It is super easy to play, and it is fragile. Somebody can screw it up, right? But so what? You just shuffle the deck and play again, right? I think a lot of us don't play it so much anymore because you move on, right? You move on from a gateway game a lot, right? A gateway game, it introduced you to this, and now there's social deduction plus something else, and you're like, oh, that's a little more interesting. Let's do that. So anyway,
It would be hard to say that one didn't become a gateway game for modern board gaming because, I mean, I can't even remember Will Wheaton's show. What was that called?
Tabletop.
I mean, that was one of the ones that he played on there at first, and it just exploded, and then everybody was playing it. So it would be difficult to argue that for sure.
Will
I
Wheaton
think
did
that
a lot for the hobby.
I think that show was great for the
it's
hobby.
huge.
I'm sad it's over.
yeah, that was a gold mine. If somebody could get their game on that show, it had a huge bump in sales.
That's where I saw Sheriff for the first time.
Yeah.
A lot of games.
I got
Where
Formula
I saw
D.
What Not to Do in Ticket to Ride when she
Yeah,
slammed
that
the
was funny,
table.
yeah.
It's good stuff.
I remember I got Formula D from there. I can't remember offhand what games that I bought because I saw them on that show, but I do remember Formula D.
Once
I
Upon a Time,
specifically
even though
do.
no one will play it.
Oh, yeah, right.
And it was all quality games on that show too. It's
Yeah.
not like they just did a whole bunch of stuff that they got paid to do. They did quality games, so it worked both ways. Like it was really good for the games and it was really good for the hobby.
Yeah, they
just one of those
specifically thought about what would work well in our format, and then it's got to be very interactive. It couldn't be a game. They talked about this actually. It couldn't be a game where all the action takes place in your head because that's boring, right? It's got to be a game where the action takes place with the players talking. It has to be short enough and simple enough, and
And have the sidebar, like all the sidebars for the show.
Yeah.
That was a very important part, and not all games would allow something like that.
Yeah. Like Diplomacy. Diplomacy is all about the sidebars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be a marathon show also with Diplomacy.
You could do a whole season.
Diplomacy
like
is sidebar of the
that,
game.
That would be
Oh,
funny.
and Bohnanza.
We could have the just got played Diplomacy, and we could have every time you want to make a side conversation with a deal with somebody, you have to record it and put it on the channel.
Go into another room.
John would cheat. John would watch the video. No, I'm saying like it would be like I used to play Diplomacy where you would do one turn a day, right, or something. We'd have to do it like that, and then we could have our sidebars and we could record our sidebars. And,
No, or we could all go over to one person's house and set up a live feed camera in another room and a live feed camera in the Diplomacy room.
Do like talking heads on the side.
Heard, but you're never gonna finish a game of Diplomacy in person.
I don't have time to play a one-shot game of Diplomacy. That's what, actually
that's
if
why
you
they play by email.
If you play by the modern tournament rules, it's like a 90-minute game or something. Like,
how is that possible?
I don't know, but I was reading about there's an AI that is now I think recognized as the best Diplomacy player.
You've got 12 seconds to make a decision. That's all.
Yeah, like and
that's fun.
It's interesting that there was I was reading about it, and apparently there is the modern Diplomacy tournament, and the games are quick.
What do they got? No press. See, look, I'm flashing my Diplomacy.
Well, there's also you don't
no
need...
press means you don't talk to anybody.
There's definitely conversation, but there's also I think a lot more cooperative victory conditions. So
gotcha.
I think that's
it's not enough that I win. I want you to lose.
Because in real base Diplomacy, there is only one winner. That the rules only allow for one winner. And most of the time what happens is the three people left at a certain point go, I'm good if you're good. That's not Diplomacy. You're supposed to fight it out till there's only one left. But just saying.
It would never
technically that is
Come
the
on.
definition of Diplomacy, Eric.
Yeah. Let's stop the war that we can't
If I'm
win.
good, you're good. All right. All this sucked. We should stop now. All right.
Anything
That's
less than that
diplomacy.
is a stalemate.
All right. I get it.
I shared in a victory with 2 other people many times and been happy about it. I'm just talking about for the purists out there, so I don't get beat up in the comments or somebody's reaction video or
those
something.
purists don't count because they're still playing the same game from 20 years ago. Nobody's won yet.
But they're playing it pure.
They're playing it the right way.
I wanted to say one thing before we close out the show. Stephen and I will be are either of you going to Board Game
No,
Geek?
I didn't know about these plans until we're already firmed.
Yeah, I
wasn't invited.
You're invited.
Yeah.
They still got tickets. And Eric, former JPG, just got played.
Eric Little?
Host Eric Little will be joining us.
Oh, no kidding.
Little Eric's going to BGG. Really?
Little Eric's going to BGG.
You guys gonna play Blood on the Clock Tower?
No.
No, never again. Thank you. That was
Sounds like a
so
story.
painful. Oh, it was so painful. Erock made it so painful for us all.
A story for a different day. But it is a story.
Here's the problem. We know
Tiffany
that
was
Erock's full
crying.
of crap. Because Erock's like, oh, we'll finish this game in 1 hour. And Steven and I are like, no. We caught him and they're like, yeah, it's like 3.5 hours. It's close to an hour.
It would have gone a lot faster if they didn't restart the thing 5 times. But anyway, we'll stream live from Board Game Geek as much as they'll let us. I think they'll let us. We know a dude.
Hey, I didn't know
And if
I
you
was
wanna
streaming
play
live,
games-
but all right.
If you guys want to come find us at Board Game Geek and play a game with us, we'll be there late into the hours.
I will probably be wearing this sweatshirt, so, you know.
And he never washes it, so he'll be easy to find.
Yeah.
Just follow your nose.
Walk left in the hall until you smell him, and then go right in the hall until you see him.
Nice.
Awesome.
Hey, all right. Well, I got to say, Neutral said when we were talking about social deduction, his honorable mention is Murder on the Cosmic Express. So I just had to work that in there, and that's the end of the show.
Very
Everybody.
nice. We got 2 of them in. Somebody else mentioned Siege of Verdun earlier.
Oh, did they?
So-
What? Where was that? I didn't see that. Oh.
He skipped it on purpose. It's for rolling sixes at risk.
All right. Well, I'm Steven. That's John. That's Patrick. That's Ewok.
Great name.
Former life, man. Former life.
We're from Just Got Played. Thanks for joining us, talking about gateway games. We'd like to do a lot of these live streams talking about stuff. If you have suggestions of stuff you want to hear us talk about, come on over to our Discord channel. I'll put a link to it in the comments under this video after we're done streaming here. But yeah, come join our Discord, talk to us there. But, like, subscribe so you don't miss fun stuff like this. We appreciate it. Thanks for joining us tonight. See you later, everybody.
Bye. Have a
Bye.
wonderful time.
Oh.